Welcome to the Brass Junkies, a podcast from the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network featuring interviews with the world's greatest brass players by two thoroughly average ones, Lance LaDuke and myself, Andrew Hitz. Today's episode features tuba legend Dan Perantoni. Dan shares some crazy stories with us, like how he originally wanted to be a jazz pianist and how he auditioned for Eastman on a sousaphone. He also shares memories of Harvey Phillips, Rich Madison, and Don Knobb, and tells about how he makes meatballs by the hundreds. He tells us all about it next. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by the beautiful and talented Lance LaDuke. How are you doing today, Lance?
I'm feeling both beautiful and talented.
I was joking, so that's quite a coincidence. So before we introduce our guest for this episode, I did want to let you know to ask if you could go and give us a rating in the iTunes store. It would help other people find our podcast, and let's be honest, before you found our podcast, life was just a little bit more sad, right, Lance?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you could do that, that would be awesome. And you could also visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And that is a place where you could help support the show, even with a really small donation, like $1 an episode, which will help us with our ongoing costs for production and hosting and all of that stuff. So, but really, we're just happy that you are all listening. The response has been really incredible, and we're having an absolute blast. We're just about a year in. I think actually this month is a year, isn't it? So let's just say that today is exactly our anniversary. So happy anniversary, Lance.
I hope you got my card.
I didn't get you anything. So, well, we have a tuba legend. There's no question about it. A legend of a player, of a teacher, and a mighty fine human being as well. This is Dan Perantoni is our guest. Dan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So this is one of those guest Lance where it's like, where do we even start? We could interview this guy for 9 hours, which he said he can only do 8. So we gotta trim some of the fat here. Where do we even start with this guy?
It's a good question. Well, Dan, why don't you tell us what you did today? Because I bet that'll be an interesting story.
Well, today I came in and with my colleagues in the trombone faculty, Carl Lenthy and Pete Ellison, we listened to 1, 2, 3, 4 very good euphonium players. And I just finished with a young man who came from Thailand to play for us for an audition. And we're just wrapping that up when I was waiting for your call.
Yeah, we had some, we've been doing this for a year, and we had some serious technical difficulties, so we were not getting along with Skype. So Dan was very, as always, very gracious, because we started the interview about 25 minutes after we told him that we were going to. So it was a little bit of a, we had restarting computers, and it was a little bit of clown college, but we made it. So for those of you in the audience who don't know, which is possibly no one, Dan teaches at Indiana University, which is where he was hearing auditions today. And yeah, and you play, you play all over the place, and you teach all over the place, and you're one of the busiest people in the business, and you have been for a long time. What playing are you doing primarily these days?
I've been doing recently a lot of jazz playing. Last couple of years I recorded 2 CDs, and the latest one being a Christmas album, which I really enjoyed doing. I played with the they call it Aha Print Trio and Guest, and that's with Steve Ali and Steve Houchin. And we did some real nice arrangements, and I did it for CD Baby, so that's been kind of fun. I've been playing partial recitals. I was, this year, I was in Lisbon, Portugal, with Sergio and other guests, DeMonte Thurman, and we split a recital, did master classes. And I'm in the process of next month going to Bangkok to be with Steve Rosse and do that Tuba Mania. And we'll be doing a week of master classes. And then following that, I'll be judging the Mark McKirkin Tuba finals for the big competition, solo competition, which should be real fun. I'm looking forward to that. Plus, I'm out with a St. Louis Brass Quintet. We do about 30 concerts a year, which is enough for me, and I really enjoy my colleagues. It's kind of fun. You know how quintet playing is, guys.
Yeah, right.
You know, yeah, so I still love doing that. It's been about 40-some years playing in that quintet.
Wow.
So that's what I've been doing lately, plus teaching a lot, which I really enjoy.
You hold a unique spot in the diversity of kinds of playing that you've done and the length of time you've been doing it. Do you have any what kind of, I don't know, reflections makes it sound like you're about to kick it, which I know you're nowhere near that, but where do you feel like we are as tuba and euphonium players now, or what excites you? What do you point to as a thing you're really proud of or excited about? There's about 9 questions in one question. You can pick any one of them and go from there.
I could take this to a long way. One of my most proud is obviously, I'm proud of the fact that I've had the opportunity to work with some of the best talents in the country and out of the country. And I'm also proud of the fact that over the years, my former teacher, one of whom was Arnold Jacobs, and told me, he says, Dan, always practice what made you good in the first place. And I've always continued with that right from the start. And I still do this today. I still love to practice. And, you know, I think if I could ever master the damn horn, I'd probably quit. But I still challenge myself. You know, it's like having a carrot. I always had a philosophy of putting a carrot in front of me and let's go on with a new project. And I always try to do something a little bit different and, you know, just have fun with it. I'm having a ball. At my age right now, I'm still having a ball, and I hope I have several years left because I have no plans on retiring at this particular time.
Well, I hope not.
So,
6.
Yeah.
Well, if you were, let's go in a different direction. If you were advising you're just starting out as a pup, what advice would you give you?
Well, you know, I have to go back in my history, okay? First of all, I grew up in a family where my father was quite a good trombone player, but a pop musician. You know, back in the 40s, he had a jazz band. It was very hip at the time, too. And he was listening to really good players at that time, Tommy Dorsey, such and such, and brought that home. He had a little band called Perantoni and his Five Aces. And they played all over the state and in Jamestown, New York, and played some of the really good shows. It was quite popular. So in growing up, I had that in the background. I used to rehearse at home, and he always wanted me to play in his band. And so he started me on piano when I was about 5. And the goal was, well, he wanted me to play in his band. And I did. When I was in high school, I did play with him. And it really, but I always wanted to play the trombone because he did. And he wouldn't let me touch it. Yeah, Father can't do that, right? So one day in high school, you know, I got hurt playing football. And to be honest with you, there was this nice-looking flute player. And I figured, well, heck, I must have joined the band. And he said, what would you like to play? And I said, well, I'll take the tuba. And I thought it was, you know, euphonium, to be honest with you. They brought out the sousaphone, and we picked it. I was a little bit embarrassed, but I played it. And I never had a lesson, and I won a contest in about 3 months, a state contest.
Whoa.
So I could always play the damn thing. I mean, you know, at that particular time. And the story later that my father was searching in music schools, and one of his students, he taught trombone, was Miko Monardo. And Miko became very famous during the disco days. You know, he did Star Wars disco and such. You might know the name. Anyway, Miko was a very fine trombone player, and he was at Eastman and encouraged me to come and audition. Well, I auditioned on piano, and they said to me, well, you're good enough to get in music education, but I understand you play tuba. And my dad says, yeah, I brought the bass horn with me. And they invited Donald Knobb down, and I played something that I remember. I don't remember the actual, but one of those old solos, you know, that Bill Bell did.
Right.
And on the sousaphone. And to be honest with you, I think the only guy in the world to ever get into school of music on a sousaphone. And that's a true story. I had so much to learn. Believe me, I had no idea. The first guy I heard when I went to Eastman was Roger Bobo, and I immediately called my father and I said, "Wait, Dad, I'm in the wrong business." He says, "Listen to him. Such a goes I listen to him." So, I did. And frankly, with Nobby at Eastman those days, those were glorious days. I couldn't miss. I made wind ensemble, things of that. But it was, good hard work. I mean, as an Italian boy, you never doubted your dad. You go practice, and we practiced 8-9 hours a day back in those times, And the rest of it, I always wanted to go and continue my jazz piano playing, which is not terrific, but I still can play. And I said, well, if I don't make it on tuba, I'm going to switch my thing, go study, hopefully with Oscar Peterson or something like that. Well, the first gig I got was San Antonio Symphony, and I've been going that direction ever since. So, and I got drafted out of San Antonio Symphony, by the way, and I was quite glad, and I hit the Army Band, to be honest with you.
Huh.
And that sort of changed my ideas from that. After the Army Band, and I went to Europe for a couple of years, and I always had the pleasure and the opportunity to work with people who are good or better than myself. And I still this day, I really try to surround myself with, people who are really doing some things, and it's very exciting. I hope that helps you.
Well, it helps a ton. I'm thinking about, how long have you been at IU?
21 years.
So there's not many people who can point to more students who are excelling in the career than you can. And that's not an accident. I mean, it's also not just false. I'm not just trying to blow smoke, but do you have a sense of what are you doing over there that's causing this to happen? You're teaching way more than just how to put down second valve at the right time.
Well, I've been, over the last 20-some years, I've been attracting some really, really fine students, and I look for, natural talent, to be honest with you. When someone auditions or so, and you hear something special, that's what I'm really after. And I take an approach to what do they like to do best. For example, there's some people who are going to audition for like the Army service. They want to do that. Well, I try to do one of it, and this is an orchestral school. And it's an opera school, I've had a little experience over in, particularly in Europe, with opera and such. And what we do is, we get an intensive study, all right? I know there's going to, I look for jobs in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, and we just plan for it and train them like you're going to do the Olympics with a lot of, I went to the first one. For example, there's going to be the Cincinnati Orchestra coming up, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about 9 of my students are going to be, they're hearing everybody, which is a nice thing. But you know exactly what they're going to ask, the first round. All right, they're going to ask Meistersinger, they're going to ask Wright, they're going to ask probably Berlioz' Hungarian March, and maybe Mahler 1. And probably that's about it because they're not going to have any time. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to have those pieces down. I mean, got to be, why do they ask Meistersinger? Well, they want a C major right there. You can do intonation and like sound quality. And you have to have these down as a conditioned response to play it the first time. And that's what we try to do. You could pass that first round. You just narrowed your odds down to about 20. And, of course, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to hit the low register and such and such. Well, we make them strong in that area. In other words, study the scores. That's one thing, Someone else might have a little bit of, I'm a frustrated jazz player. I wish I could do better at it. If I write it down, I can play it. However, my improv is better on piano, and I'd like to do that. I have a couple of students interested in that. You got to teach them how to swing a little bit. And even with these classical things, they're going to have to swing to them. The excerpts. There's a certain group. There's a certain pocket. But I think most of it's because I've been fortunate to have some of the better students, and they continue the program. A school like here, the orchestra situation is just absolutely marvelous. There's 4 orchestras, the wind ensemble and all that. So they get some really, really good training outside of that. And plus the fact, just like you guys, I have such great colleagues to work with. And we share mock auditions and things of that nature, whatever they're interested in. Me, I've never been really into the orchestral world as much as, guys who've done 20, 30 years at it. And personally speaking, I never wanted to go that direction, but I have a great love for it. And like you guys, anything you do, you have to do a lot of listening, lots of listening. And to this day, I still do. But I'm probably going to listen to Bill Evans more so than I'm going to listen to Marlon One. You know?
I was going to ask, did you ever get a chance to meet Oscar Peter?
No, but I met Bill Evans, and I have
cool.
his Facebook. I had a chance to do that, and when I was back with Rich Madison, I met a lot of people in the jazz. We did a lot with the Tuba Jazz Concert at that time. And I remember going we were invited to a special party that the jazz, a Dick Gibson jazz party as a feature group. And there was Sims, and there was Oscar Peterson. Like I said, yeah, I did meet him, but never had a chance to talk to him. But there's Ray Brown. And, when I was playing tuba back in my high school days, I was playing Ray Brown lines on the tuba. That's what I wanted to do.
It's a good guy to steal from.
And that kind of training just, to help me. Well, it's good time. And, you teach really, it's a good way to learn time, So I try to instill all that in the student, particularly interest. But for the first couple of years, it's basics, man. You do a lot of low register playing with a good sound. Got to have a beautiful sound, Try to cover all those basics.
I love you talking about the pocket when you're talking about orchestral excerpts, and I'm sure that comes from all of the jazz in your background. But yeah, there's a difference between just having good time, which you have to have good time to be in the pocket or to have good groove. But there's a difference between time and groove, and the people who can play excerpts with great groove, then everything seems to fall in place.
Yeah, I never thought those excerpts were that hard. What's so hard about them? You play the Vaughan Williams Tuba Concerto, and then, and then some of these pieces seem to be real easy. And I think we talk too much. I'm interested in the doer, Mm-hmm. That's why I wear different hats. I mean, as a performer, you guys know this. You have different hats. If I think about everything that I learned through the pedagogical thing, I'm going to play the damn horn, And so you want to make a product of good habits. So I stress that a lot. If somebody has real trouble doing melodies, you're going to do a lot of them. And might be playing tunes by one of the greatest lyricists, Frank Sinatra. Come on. What would he do with this phrase? I was just teaching the Cosma this morning, and, the euphonium piece, and the opening like so. And I said, hey, how about Sinatra? Don't listen to somebody like that, or maybe a Chet Baker. How would he play that beautiful line? And even it's in a classical thing, the people start thinking, and it gets a little bit better. I mean, in other words, challenged to listen to a lot of great artists. This morning also we're doing that on the audition. There's the Sarabande from Bach, And, all you got to do is go back and listen to Yo-Yo Ma play the doggone thing, and then do the same damn thing that he did, with good sound and stress notes. That's what we do.
Pretty funny. Here's I don't know if this is an answerable question, but what either, and actually both, the answer to both parts of this would be interesting to me anyway. Are there things that students that are coming through your door to audition, are there things that they all, or even the ones that end up in your studio, strengths that they all have in common and or weaknesses that they all tend to have in common?
The biggest weaknesses that I find is sound, beautiful sound. And usually they seem to be, well, first of all, you got to calm them down. They're nervous a little bit to come in and have a 10-minute audition, First of all, things you want to make them feel at home and, get to that part when they get comfortable, Otherwise, some of these auditions are, I like to do it privately. We have a little time with them, Mm-hmm. You calm the nerves down and such and just play. So I always ask them to play the things. We'll start with something beautiful. And I find that to be mostly the problem. Dynamics. Band directors around the country, when they have the tuba players in the tuba section, always put their hand down. You're playing too damn loud, so they teach them not to blow, actually. So the students come in here a lot and have that dull mezzo forte thing. And what I try to do right away is to try to have them play a good way to solve it. Let's go back and do a good forte. Let's do the Bordonis at forte. Give me that good sound and back off. And it usually works very well. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Graduate students, when they audition, they know too much. And frankly speaking, that seems to get in the way. You know, it depends on where their education is or what they study. Some of them are very gifted in sort of like mathematics and the like, and they think like it. You can't do that as a musician. You can think of that as not as a player so much. You can think of the mathematics involved when you're doing jazz things as far as chord changes and the like, but it just has to be a natural thing. So I'm trying to get them to do something more natural so I can understand where they're coming from. But I find the biggest weakness in that, the grad students don't today much. Undergraduates from band things usually don't play out enough, and usually they have their tonguing screwed up, you know. In other words, blow first, tongue second. And that's, you know how that goes.
Sure.
Yeah,
I hope that helps. I mean, that's pretty general.
No, that was great. Yeah, I find that a lot of young players overestimate how important the tongue is to how notes start, and they de-emphasize the air and the immediacy of the air with articulation, and as you know, the harder you tongue, the harder it is.
You know?
Yep. I've never put it that way, and I'm about to put it that way a lot, and I will credit you some of the time, and the rest of the time I'll claim it's my own. But the blow first, tongue second, that's great. That's it. That's it.
I learned that from Ronald Jacobs. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
And blow from your lips. That's lately, man. That gets me more results than anything. You know, you just simply do that. You know, and a funny thing, a lot of people say, I say, what do you tongue? Right? Oh, you probably face this problem. And they say, well, I tongue behind my upper teeth. I said, if you do that, how can you blow from your lips? Mm-hmm. You know, you ever think about that? So that's where it's good up. That's where they have their tongue first, you know. And obviously, too, it depends on the instrument you're playing. But you have to blow and then assist it with the tongue. The tongue will find its right place then.
Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought. Oh, anyway.
What's that?
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit more about the Tuba Jazz Consort and the Richard Madison stuff? Because I don't know. I think it's kind of a sad state of affairs, but I don't know how many people remember that, or as a. Or
you know, you're right. Not too many people. Even my own students at my time. Look at some of our great heroes, Harvey Phillips and such. You know, we've got to keep the memories out there. We have to keep the recordings. The best musician I ever heard, honestly, is Rich Madison. I played with him for years. I never heard him miss a note, ever. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And he could do it all day long. You know? And some of the things, when we got together, the arrangements that he wrote and what he tried to do, he voiced it in such a way. Well, and he told me one time, he says, I voiced it on electric piano. If it sounded good on electric piano, it works for tubas and euphoniums. Which I found very interesting, and I agree with him, you know. And we had 3 tubas. Yeah.
How did it start?
How did it start was, we were doing a symposium, and actually Rich got together with Harvey Phillips at Don Little's college when he was teaching in, where was that school? Was it Michigan? Yeah. So anyway, Don, before he went to North Texas. Mm-hmm. And Rich was there, and Harvey was there, and Harvey come back and told his wife, Carol, he says, boy, I heard these guys, we should be, and they both listen to Tuba Ensemble, and Rich says, gee, I'd like to do more playing with you, Harv. We ought to do a group. And they talk about, yeah, let's do a big group, like a Tuba Ensemble. 2 40s, 2 tuba, who should we get? And I got a call from Harvey, and would you like to join a group? And I said, I'd be delighted. And Winston did, and then at that time we had an international symposium here, and we had, you know, so we're going to feature ourselves. We had absolutely no charge, and Rich brought a couple of charge, like, Sentimental Mood, a couple of things like that. And we played. We were a pretty doggone big hit at that time. And then we decided, well, let's do a little bit more. And it's, you know, particularly at that time with these major symposiums, we were featured guests. And some of the Army conferences, wherever we were, we traveled. And then we actually got a big tour together. Went to Australia, played in clubs over there, went to Japan. And so we did a lot of touring, you know, and that got to be, and we played at Chicago Showcase, Music Educators Meeting in Chicago, MNC, and things like that. But we went up and played at jazz clubs in Chicago and L.A. quite a bit, and we were featured. Our drummer was Louis Belson.
Holy moly.
Piano player at times was Roger Calloway. You name it. Steve Houchin was our drummer. Bill Hinton played with us. Hank Jones. I mean, it was, and it was filled in, and it was absolutely, for me, it was the greatest experience. It was great. And listen to Rich, who coached us on it. And I'll give you an example that I always find exciting. We were at the Jazz Showcase, and I looked on there, and here's Olio, and I looked at it, and I said, oh, my God, we had no rehearsal. and I had Buddy Baker, I said, Buddy, how the hell do I play that? And he looks at me and goes, sing it, Dan. I went, I said, play the same way. And honest to God, it was that, and I took a little thing from me. I said, hell, I can do this, and that's the kind of things. I always admired the jazz musician because, how do you play this? Well, sing the damn thing. All right, play it. And I like that kind of spirit. And if you do that kind of teaching on a classical level, too, I want to hear it now. Let's get into it. Let's get into the mood for it. So it's had a good effect on us. You're talking about Rich Madison, and then, I've got Jack Peterson came in. They did a lot of arrangements and just hanging out and playing in clubs. You played clubs for a couple of times with people like this. It's unbelievable. And you hang around like a Louis Bellson. My goodness, so those kind of things. That's Rich Madison, and to this day, I don't know why he's lost. We have to promote him more. His records are fantastic.
Yeah,
I know why the Tuba Jazz records, we have them, but we got to make them more available, and it's been held back, and we just got to push them. I think I'm going to do a couple of them and let them go.
How many were there?
Actually, there's 3, and one of them's live. We produced 2 of them, and they're live. I have a live performance that we did in Adelaide after working together for 6 nights, and then it was a radio broadcast live. And that's absolutely some of the best damn playing we ever did, because we're kind of loose and having a hell of a lot of fun. So that one I have, I'd like to just let it go and have people listen to it. I think, and Rich is playing in Ashley's or something else,
Ashley Alexander, yeah.
Yeah.
Was he playing that Superbone thing, or was he playing euphonium?
Oh, yeah. He didn't do the Superbone, but he did a double bell euphonium. He had a good act, He'd play courses with himself and answer himself on it. It's quite cute, and we have some of that. It was really good. Really good. He was.
So if you're playing it just like a regular club in L.A. or in, I don't know, Tokyo, what's the crowd? Yeah. You play at a tuba conference, you expect them to, go crazy and rip their clothes off and, just take you guys out on their shoulders.
Well, I'll be honest, but we had that kind of effect on a lot of people. I never knew a tuba can do that. I got to tell you a funny story. Harvey Phillips Witt. Okay, we're at the Jazz Showcase. A guy comes up to him and says, hey, is this outfit any good? And Harvey looked at him and says, no, frankly, I think you look better in a blue suit. Well, we lost it. We lost it so hard. Rich could hardly play, man. He was crying so hard after that. But we used to have such fun. And the guys were just like you guys do with the Boston Brass Band. Witty, funny, and having a good time,
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
these stories are priceless. No, these stories are great. It's it's good to hear, and what a list of characters that came through that ensemble. It's it's really phenomenal. What a phenomenal snapshot of a period of our history that everybody needs to be familiar with.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. And the promoter was Harvey Phillips. He'd take an idea, he'd promote the heck out. Rich was not the best promoter, but the best player I've ever heard. You know what I mean? And nothing gets hard to get me wrong. He could look at it in the tuba jazz. He played tuba 1 on a C tuba. I'm playing tuba 2 on an F tuba. My job was playing 9ths and 7ths, though. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And he's above me, and it's marvelous. He never had any trouble. It sounded great.
Well, and how, what a delight to be a tuba player and not just be playing the root.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I still love doing it. I don't do it so much anymore. I'm doing a lot of recital playing and some things. I still like to do that, and band performances. Keeps me going. You know what it does.
The tuba jazz thing was taking the instrument into a very, very new direction in terms of, just a new direction. We're sort of known as legit or classical folks. Do you feel like there are other directions we could or should be looking in as players right now?
Oh, well, I see it happening in a small way. You know, I see a lot of, actually, you see some sousaphone players in rock bands and playing some good things. And Tom Holtz, for example, is a good, he's doing a lot of some interesting things. And I hear some of these young guys, and I've always told these young kids, I said, what's left to do? Why don't you get the tuba and sit down and play some good rock and roll, you know, or you know, find something different. And there seems to be a little resurgence of some, like a Dixieland basic thing with tuba on the bottom of it, and it's becoming quite popular. And so I remember, too, like, when I was in the Army band, I used to work down on the Scarlet Garter, and the instrumentation was tuba, trumpet, and banjo. I worked 6 nights a week for 3 years, and for about 3 hours a night. Boy, you learn scales fast. You talk about root fifths, you know. But anyway, I surely learned my scales and plus made some money, you know, at that particular time. It was fun. And when I left it, Jimmy South took it over.
Yeah, cool.
You know? Anyway. But, you know, I'm talking a little bit about more jazz things because you asked me what I'm doing recently.
Oh, of course.
For years, I mean, you know, obviously, right now, if you're going to audition in Europe or so, you better play the Vaughan Williams like the violinist, you know. And that's what I see the standards becoming over here. They can do it over in Europe, but we've been pushing them hard in this direction here in the States. And so, you know, there's so many fine students out there. Now, what I'm worried about is what's the next degree going to be required after the doctorate for these jobs?
Well, that's just it. That's actually where I was hoping you'd go next, which is, you know, we've gotten very, very good at schools of music at turning out very highly qualified players. So what do you teach them in terms of, well, the way I yell at my kids about it is, the university kids, is how do you teach them to live indoors and eat food? So what are you doing to help them figure that part out?
Well, first of all, for an undergraduate major, here's my concept. Okay? I would never. Okay, wait a minute. I got another call coming in, and we just won't answer it. Okay?
This is the Pope, isn't it?
It's beeping in on me. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's my daughter calling. So anyway, but what I look for in a student is, first of all, don't get a performance degree in undergraduate. Mm-hmm. I've always given any student, I don't care if they're in basketball, even if they're taking tuba, they're going to get the same as a performance major. Okay? Right. When you graduate with a bachelor's degree in performance, what do you have? Actually, nothing. You don't even have to go to school to perform, to be honest with you.
Right.
But what you have is you've got a good environment, and you have other students that you're going to learn from. And like I said, you learn more from the people you surround yourself, and then obviously some good teaching. That's number one. Number two, in an undergraduate, why don't you major in music education, or what we have here? Most of my students have a double major, a Bachelor of Music and maybe a business degree. Damn, I wish I had a business degree. I'd be worth a fortune today, you know, of all the things I've learned. But really, and that's the kind of education you have. But you're still going to get the same, you know, emphasis on your home. So that's what I say. For a master's degree, then get your performance. If you're teaching high school, you get your master's in anything, you're going to get a pay increase. Okay? Mm-hmm. And one of the problems I see with these doctoral students, they come in with 3 degrees in performance. And personally, I won't touch them at the moment. I'm scared of it. I don't know. There's too many out there that are so good, but they don't have the paper qualifications that get you past that interview. You know what I mean? You know, people, you better come, you better look good on paper, which is a damn climb because, you know, frankly speaking, how well can a guy play is usually second in that process.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they call you personally, you can make recommendations, which do happen. You know? So anyway, then when you're going to get your doctorate, be more well-rounded, you know? Do something in conducting, you know? I find band directors and businesses, you know, some of these major band directors out there aren't the best musicians I've ever seen sometimes. And if a young person comes up there and they can do really great conducting and a good musician, particularly on tuba euphonium, or if you can do marching band, if you do a really good job of marching band, get your job tomorrow. They're looking for all those, you know, get your foot in the door. So you need a little bit of good versatility, you know. I've always tried to do that for myself, you know, be able to do a little bit more than playing the tuba. If that was all I did, I'd be bored out of my mind, you know. But I think that's one of the problems. Too narrow person. You know, we're going to be a soloist. Good luck. You know, even in our instrument, good luck going to be in a soloist unless you have a government that's going to back you, and you're good at grants, and you're persistent at a lot of things. That's a tough job to get. I wouldn't discourage it. As I always tell them, you want a job in a symphony orchestra, you got a better chance running for Senate. There's more jobs. Okay? But put that on your list of goals and think high, you know? Write down your 10 goals of really what do you want to do. Listen, teaching was the furthest thing from my mind as an undergraduate. And then I was influenced by Harvey Phillips, and I got a call once from Falcone and a couple other people said, I said, hey, why don't you apply to some teaching jobs? You know, I think I was one of the first guys at it with a master's degree back when we started it. And you know how that started? That started with Harvey Phillips and the brass quintet. Because as the New York Brass Quintet was formed, all these schools said, well, this is a good way. We need to get a tuba teacher in here so we can have a brass quintet. That'd be good for recruiting. Boom, look what happened. There's 145, 160 jobs out there today.
Wow.
So,
wow. I didn't know that.
But we already, that was also planned, you know, back in the early days of forming the ITEA and our tuba at that time, TUBA. All those kind of things were on the drawing board. Hey, man, how can we do this? How can we get it in? And that was one of the things. And so all this kind of ideas sort of spun off. And it's great to see all this happening. And I'm looking back right now and saying, wow, this is really neat, you know? This is neat.
Where do you think it's going?
Yes?
Where do you think it's going from here? What do you think? What next?
I think we're becoming better musicians. I think every time I hear these players play out there, our famous soloists and the like, I hear it better and better and better. I hear a lot more music. Look, when we started back there wasn't that many pieces out there. So we went out and hustled, just like, you know, everybody does their own thing. We got composers to write for us. They're taking us serious. One thing about IU, I've never been treated as a second-class citizen here because I played tuba. In fact, you know, they treated me a little bit different here. I was just absolutely amazed. I remember the days when you went to the university and you were looked on, so you teach at a university, you must not be able to play. Well, one of the proudest things that we did, we sure as hell turned that one around, you know. but I mean, all those kind of things, you know, are a joke of an instrument. It's not a joke anymore, you know. You listen to the radio stations and such, you hear some of our best players out there being featured on a classical station. I just heard Gene Perantoni play the most beautiful Vaughan Williams second movement I ever heard to a standing crowd in Chicago, you know. And things like that. It's wonderful to see that. I'm seeing more and more of that. I mean, the level is really, really doubled since I started, you know. I'd hate to sit and have to follow some of these young kids, to be honest with you.
Well, but I mean, again.
Listen, I always thought of like that. You know, at my age and all the stuff we've done, I don't really have to play. You know, that's kind of nice. And frankly, I'd rather listen to all these other guys. But it's still fun. I want to keep in shape, you know.
But there's a bunch of these guys who wouldn't be playing like they're playing if they hadn't gone through your door. I mean,
yes. Or if they hadn't heard your records. Or
that's nice. That's nice of you to say, but, you know, I kind of think they're a product of their own thing, too. I like to see my students after 10 years and go back and listen to them, and I have that opportunity quite often. And when I held this conference here, I had a chance to run around and hear a lot of people that I hadn't heard in about 15 and 20 years. It's brought tears to my eyes at friends who don't know. They're really, really... And, you know, as I look back on my career, the most rewarding thing that I hear is, you know, if you were able to give something back and to the art that we love so much. And you guys being teaching, I know you feel that already. And that's why we do it. You know, it's just fantastic. I get so dang excited still hearing somebody play good. Mm-hmm. And I try to do it myself, you know.
Well, I think that passion that you have for playing, for teaching, and for other people's playing, just hearing it, whether it's your students or a stranger to you, it's evident in everything you do. So every time I ever run into you, you're always being passionate about something, like 100% of the time, and I think that shines through in your artistry as well, which is a good lesson for all of us.
Well, you're very kind on those kind of thoughts. You know, hey, listen, we are just try to do the best I can. You know, and really, it's going to keep you going. Keep you going. I still got a couple of things I still want to do, and you know, right now I'm working a little bit more on. I want to work a little bit more on piano, but my tuba chops are really taking me to practice a little bit more. So, anyway.
So,
because I'm going to go up against a couple of really good players here and share the recital, and don't want to embarrass myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny now with how ubiquitous all cameras are and the internet and everything. It's any time that any of us give a recital anywhere, it's kind of all hands on deck because you don't want that time to be the time that you suck, and then that just gets plastered all over YouTube.
You know what? I have to speak a little bit about that. You know, like TubeNet and all that. We have to remember that when we get in some of these things, that a 12-year-old has the same voice you do. And I read some of these conversations that come out and the talk, and sometimes it really gets me. I'd like to get in it, but you don't dare be doing it. I think people have to be more careful today, particularly what they put on YouTube and the like. You know, I mean, I had a parent of one of my students. Everything he did, she put on YouTube. You know, he did 11-bar blues, and it was featured all over the country, and it was a joke. You know what I mean? And it's embarrassing. And so you try to say, listen, if you're going to put something on, make damn sure it's good. And I would ask the people to have the courtesy before they throw anything out. I see stuff that I've done I never know it did. You know, and to be honest with you, I remember seeing a movie that I'm playing the Carnival of Venice on, and it's a movie from Canada, some about a little girl. No one ever asked me for that. How did it get on there? You know. Anyway, that's far-fetched. I mean, you know, but that's a real true story. That's years ago. So anyway, I would just, you know, and the idea, you know, you make a CD today, it's a joke because Spotify gets a hold of something, there's no money in it. Why do you do CDs of thousands of them, you know?
Yep.
And it's disheartening. That I must say. I think the business has gotten a little bit more rip-off, you know, and people, of course, I like to take that. Sometimes I copy a piece of music, so I always buy it, but I'll copy a piece so I don't lose the second copy or a student doesn't walk up with mine.
Right.
I think I bought about 42 brochure books. I think that's about
Oh, man. I hear you.
There's 5.
You know what? This is another funny story for these guys. Years ago, Connie Weldon sent me a book. She was... I always put on my music stolen from Dan Perantoni. I just said it. So she went to one of these flea markets and she picked up a book from Houchin, and she sent it back to me. She said, "Hey, I found this at a flea market in Florida. I was teaching in Illinois." Yeah. I thought that was cute. Yeah.
Yeah, you can currently buy 5 different copies of stolen from Dan Perantoni Houchin books on eBay right now. So yeah, it's.
Oh, I bet you can, and you know. I'm afraid of somebody. You can find some of those things from my computer out there that I'm afraid of. You know, so I didn't give it to him.
So you were talking about about how there's still some things that you would like to do, and you were talking about piano. You've played with so many people and collaborated with so many brass legends and non-brass legends. Who is it? Is there anyone who you have not yet had the opportunity to collaborate with that you really would like to?
Oh, that yeah, sure. In what vein? Yeah.
Anybody come to mind?
Well,
putting you on the spot.
You know what I mean? There's so many wonderful musicians, and frankly speaking, I'd like to play with them all. Yeah, sure, that'd be great. You know. I wish I had an opportunity to listen a little bit more to some of the people I listen to today who passed on.
Right.
You know, and actually attend a little bit more. I mean, it's still, you know, I like the jazz to listen to. I wish I could do it better, but Jesus, I just, you know, some of the classical artists, some of our tuba players right now, some of the literature, I'm really, you know, people like, and I've had the opportunity, like Steve Mead or David Childs on the euphonium and you guys, man, and there's so many. I just had a ball. I played with DeMadre. It's the first time here. We did it about 2 months ago over in Europe, and it was just a real pleasure just to sit down and play with him. I've always admired his sound, you know.
Yeah.
And personally, I like to imitate. I hear something good, I want to take it to me if I can just do it. You know, so a lot of things. But thanks for the question.
So, what else gets you going besides piano and tuba? Are you a good? My hunch is you're a good cook. Are you a good cook?
Oh, I love to cook. Yeah, I don't do it much anymore, but yeah, I like to cook a good pasta in particular.
Okay, so I'm coming over next week. What are you making for me? I wish that was true.
Well, first of all, right now I got to tell you that, you know, my kids always my mother made the greatest sauce, and I'm able to duplicate that. And I used to make it out of beef and such, but my wife can't eat beef, so I've got a new recipe where I cook it out of turkey and chicken and pork. All right, I make meatballs out of that too. And when I do a batch of spaghetti sauce, I make about 30, 40 quarts at a time, maybe 150 meatballs.
Nice.
And I freeze them. Well, and then I dish it out. We're going to have guests over, about 12 of them. I got enough for that. Put it in the oven, put it down, it's ready to go. So I always have a good stash of that on hand, right? I also love to grill. When I get these Japanese guys over here, they always like to have a good steak or a fantastic Midwest pork chop.
Right.
So I get about an inch and a half thick of those things, and we have a good time cooking those. And so, yeah. But lately, my wife has me. I've been on a really good health kick here for the last week. I want to lose a little weight. I went up a little bit too much, and so I'm eating low fat. And I tell you, I lost about 10 pounds in the last 3 weeks, and I'm very happy with that. I can't wait until I get off of it so I can have some pasta. You understand, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
like wine, but you're a good glass of wine. You know, I can understand wine without pasta, but I can't understand pasta without wine. You know what I'm talking about? Well, that's a good ingredient.
I understand the dieting thing. That's kind of like when you got a big recital in a month and you're just practicing, and you're looking forward till the recital's over so you can stop practicing for a few days. So
yeah, that's exactly correct.
Yep.
Right. Right now I got one coming up, so I'm into it.
Yep.
That's pretty funny.
So you are familiar, I'm guessing, with Jens Lindemann, our dear friend, and
oh boy, I've been hearing he has some problems. Man.
Yeah.
I hear that, you know, he can't. You know what? I hear he can't regulate his balls, and he stutters when he's playing, man, from his chops. You know.
Well, what advice would you?
Is that true? I mean, I've been hearing that. You know, people like, you know, he's even talking that way. He's starting to stutter. You know?
I was reading about it on TubeNet.
Yeah.
Somebody was going on about
It was a 12-year-old started that thread on TubeNet, so it must be true. So
it must be true. He can't regulate his bowels. I don't know what's going on. You know?
Well, what do you have any advice for him to help with his chop problems?
Well, you know what? I've been talking about that pasta sauce. Maybe he's not eating that mother's milk, which you have to have. I kind of think that's it. You know, he should get in and rub his tongue with olive oil, because frankly, it's probably blocking that airstream. You know, and he should get that before he gets to the embouchure. I hear he's going through some embouchure changes and all that, but he can fix it. Good olive oil on the tongue, right? Stretch your lips a little bit over your head and relax, and blow from them. You'll be
well,
there you go.
Any loyal. That's awesome. Any loyal listeners will know that Joe Alessi, his advice to him was to rub olive oil on his lips and then lick it off and then call him. So if both Dan Perantoni and Joe Alessi are saying that olive oil is the key, then my guess is you need to go buy some olive oil. So
listen, and to really get it working, put some garlic on it too.
All right,
little garlic olive oil.
There you go.
Then he's going to stink in all sources. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well, then his tone can match his personality.
Oh no. I actually just saw Jens. I don't know if I even told you that, Lance. I just saw Jens at Kevin Gibo's wedding last month. So, and he sounded infuriatingly good on the girl with the flaxen hair. He did an arrangement for pick and like 3 male voices, and it was so stunningly good that it made me mad. So, but yeah.
On the phone, and he had strong words to say about all of the advice that he's getting. I had strong words back about all the attention he's getting. And I quieted him down.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. So
Dan, you're great. I've been looking forward to. We've been trying to get the schedules to work out with you for some time now. You were when Andrew and I started talking about doing this. You were always at or near the top of the list of people that we wanted to get a chance to talk to, and it was just great to get to spend some time with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Dan. Thank you so much. Yeah, I could listen to your stories. They're awesome. And there's just so many of them, and they're just and a lot of the stuff like the Rich Madison stuff. I'm so glad that Lance asked about that, because that's the kind of stuff that needs to see the light of day again, and to help spread that whole narrative. So you've seen an awful lot. So, and we thank you for sharing it with us and our listeners today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that will do it for another episode of the Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Austin Boyer and Buddy Deschler of the Fredericksburg Brass Institute. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.